a society can hit low points. We can hit the depths of our biorhythm and still go back up. I'm optimistic, Tim. I'm always optimistic because there's something about Americans. There's something about our Constitution, and these are unique and they are special. And I just feel in my heart, and maybe I'm crazy and stupid, and maybe I'm idealistic. God help me. I thought that was surgically removed from me in law school. But I think we come back from this. But it's important that we understand how far down we are. It's like the alcoholic has to take, inventory when he hits bottom.
But would you say that during the Vietnam era, the country was at this level of authoritarianism?
No.
Fracturing?
Maybe.
Political tribalism?
Somewhat. Remember, there was a full-scale terrorist, low-intensity conflict. Thousands of bombings in the early 70s. Thousands in the early 70s. I mean, they weren't killing people left and right, but they were kind of killing people left.
It was mostly shock and awe, wasn't it?
A lot of it were message bombings, but there were cops being shot down the street. The Capitol was blown up. They tried to blow up a number of targets, managed to blow up themselves, which that's a win-win. Unfortunately, after that, a lot of them were absorbed into academia. And look, and
then raised some kids who went on to become DAs in San Francisco.
Yes, Chesa Boudin.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We what we need. Look, here's what I'm afraid of, and here's what we need. We need not Ronald Reagan, but a Reagan-like figure who is willing to come in and push his agenda towards the kind of civil liberties that we're talking about. Not exactly like Ronald Reagan, not the same policies, but a communicator who is forthright and focused. I am worried that what we're going to get is a real authoritarian, because people are going to say, I can't take this chaos.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't take this chaos. And there are three options. A free society where everyone has rights, a society where our authoritarian rules, a society where their authoritarian rules. I want number one. I can live with number two. Number three, it's war.
Was Abraham Lincoln authoritarian?
Yes.
That's right. He was.
Yes, he was. And he was one of my heroes. His portrait was on my family's wall at my grandmother's house in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, burned twice by the Confederacy, right down the road from Gettysburg, which is one of the first places I was taken as a kid. So, yes, a guy can be authoritarian and not necessarily authoritarian in context and in a limited way with the idea of coming back from it.
James Buchanan, right? He was the one who led us into the Civil War, basically?
Yeah, he was the Biden of his era.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was going to say, is Biden Buchanan.
JB.
There you go.
Oh, no.
Except I'm not sure Biden, I'm not sure Buchanan was, Grandpa Badfinger, but let's leave his personal term.
But can we get like a numerologist now to like do the numbers and be like the correlation between the two?
Well, let me text my phrenologist.
There you go.
And see what he's...
So a lot of people were wondering if this period of Biden would be so bad that you will get a major, blowout election in 2022 and 2024.
I think you will.
I mean, I'd like to say that, but I think I've thought that in the past. In 2018, I was like, wow. I was like, with how crazy the Democrats have gotten and how inconsistent and broken. And then we get the squad. You actually get more absurd.
Look, the Democrat Party has been pulled to the left. The Republican Party has been pulled to the patriotic because for a long time the Republican Party was, an establishment party. It was the party of the guy who pulled up and, stepped out of his limousine and fired all you guys who worked at the Carrier air conditioning plant and said, hey, your job's going to Oaxaca. Don't worry, we'll teach you to code or something. Yeah. And he looks exactly like Mitt Romney, by the way. And look, the Republican Party ignored normal people, the guys who built this country, fed it, fueled it, fought for it. They ignored them in favor of this giant corporate nightmare. You got to understand, I was a normal Republican. I subscribed to the Weekly Standard before it became,
the Weekly Anti-Trump?
Before it became a Jeffrey Toobin Zoom inspiration material. And I only changed because of what I see. I was not a supporter of Trump when he was running. before he won the primary. After he won the primary, I was a reluctant supporter. I became an active supporter when he proved himself. I supported going into Iraq. I supported going into Afghanistan. I thought these were good ideas. I actually participated in a successful nation-building operation in Kosovo. Very different situation, though. I changed my mind because the facts changed. And I love when these guys on Twitter are like, 10 years ago, you had different ideas. Yes. when things changed and I reevaluated under new facts, yes, I changed my mind. You have correctly assessed what I have done. Good point. Aces. You are correct. And I don't delete the old stuff.
Oh, yeah. Several years ago, I didn't own any guns. Now I own many.
Oh.
Now I got a Barrett M82.
Nice.
I think that's really
Holy
funny.
crap. What, you got bears around here?
Bears?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Actually.
That's not for bears. I mean, it could...
Well, bears, daddies, otters.
Yeah.
So, but... no, it's you have a... I remember I was talking to someone who posted on Facebook some meme like, there's no reason to own any weapon. They said, no self-respecting hunter would ever use an assault weapon. And so then...
I'm not a hunter.
I responded with like showing like a polymer tip 450 Bushmaster versus like a 9mm, which is used in combat, or like a 5.56, and then I'm like, which one do you think the hunter uses? They use the stopping power for large animals, and I was like, your argument makes no sense. But the interesting thing was they came back with like, oh, the right-wing gun nuts, no one's taking your guns. Here's a list of my guns that have been banned already, and like, and then he responded with, what do you need any of those for? And so I actually said, I'm going to engage with this guy in good faith. And I had a list. I said, okay. And then I explained the purpose of every gun, like barrel length, caliber, like hunting, a small game. Like I got a break action 410. It's like a turkey shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we have wild turkeys sometimes. We don't use it here. But when you go to West Virginia, you got to get rid of some of the turkeys because they're a pest. If there's too many, then you get something more powerful. If there's wild boars infesting an area, deer can become a very big problem.
Yep.
And then you have home defense.
Yes.
You've got different options there. And then I was like, we'll put the M82 at the bottom. We'll come back to that one later. And then I said, and then my response to that one was, because I have a right to own it, and it's none of your business.
Yeah.
Because outside of anything else, I can easily explain the function of these things. This one, it's mine.
Yeah, I want it, which is another grounds for not taking the vaccine. Why don't you want the vaccine? Because I don't. Done. Argument over. See, people don't understand about rights, Tim. They think that rights are just like a brand of like special privilege. But if if you have a really good reason, though, the right has to give way. And as I said before, a lot of these people have the whole rights responsibility thing, like what's his name, Uncle Ben in Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. No. The idea of rights is no responsibility. Rights are a given. Otherwise, they're not rights. They're just privileges. And we've seen what you would do with privileges.
The Founding Fathers said that we have, it's self-evident. We have inalienable rights that were granted to us by our Creator.
Yes, we can do them even if you think it's a bad idea.
And they'll try and stop you.
Yes.
And even with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, they still infringe upon all of them, even though the Founding Fathers outlined that these shall not be infringed, but here we are.
And one of the biggest disasters of our institutions is the Supreme Court failing to aggressively police attacks on our rights. Every time they pass on a, you can't sing in church.
They have no power. The Supreme Court is meaningless.
The Supreme Court would have had some moral authority if it stood up for the things it should. Then people would listen. Now people are like, well, Kavanaugh is just going to roll over because he's got to go to the country club.
Yep.
A guy I don't understand, because if they did that to me, holy crap, it would be a jihad.
So
they would be my project.
I think it was Will Chamberlain who told us that the reason the Supreme Court doesn't get aggressive on some of these cases is because they have no enforcement ability. And if they push hard on something, it will reveal the emperor has no clothes, which it has. When the Supreme Court ruled that the eviction moratoriums were illegal completely in every sense, and the CDC has no authority to do it, then Biden said,
I'm just going to do it anyway.
Yeah, whatever. Screw the Supreme Court, right?
That's my issue with rights being inalienable. I mean, the way it's written is they can't inalienable. They can't be taken away. They're there. But like the reality, like that's kind of the myth we tell ourselves. The reality is, if someone with a lot of weapons wants to just say this is a new world with new sets of rights and laws and ideas, then that is what it is.
Well, simply because rights can be violated doesn't make them not rights. it makes somebody a violator of rights, and you have a moral obligation to resist. No, right. Look, people are going to want to take what's yours. You may have a right to something, but they're going to want to take
Ian,
it.
do you think people have a right to express themselves freely?
It depends on the situation.
So is that a no?
Yeah, if you're out in the woods and if you make a sound, the panther knows where you are and will rip your throat out. Then no, you don't have that right.
Well,
You have the ability.
You have the right. You just got to defend it.
Right.
Which is why you need that Bushmaster.
But I mean, the reality is we're squishy bodies.
But
Like-
I don't think you understand what a right means, right? So
Yeah, exactly. We got to define what that even means.
If somebody wanted to speak freely, should they be stopped?
Well, it depends on the situation. If you're
So-
going to
so
alert
there-
people to
there
your
are-
presence, then yeah, they should be stopped.
I'm just saying, like, okay, so there are circumstances in which you think people shouldn't be allowed to express themselves.
Yes.
Right. I don't agree with that. I think people have a right to express themselves no matter what.
Well,
the
welcome to the
consequences,
military.
The consequences are their choice. There's a difference between saying, well, you might give away your position. It's like, okay, well, you're allowed to do it. That's your decision, not mine. And I'll tell you this, and if I'm standing next to you and we're in the woods and you want to start screaming at the top of your lungs, I have a right to walk away. And I'll say, Ian, you go ahead and do
but
it.
if my
I'm walking
screaming
away.
is going to get us killed, then
I will leave.
no.
My rights are more important than your life, and it's not even close. And no offense, but my rights are more important than your. They're also more important than my life. I will not live where I cannot speak freely, where I cannot worship as I see fit. I will not live that way.
What about the right?
I will die before I do.
What
that.
about the right to pursue happiness?
That's not a right. That is a preamble. Rights are specific.
I see.
You
Yeah,
have the
life,
right to
liberty,
speak
and the
freely.
pursuit of happiness.
And that was like a conveyance of feeling about what their goal was. Not they didn't make the First Amendment the right to pursue happiness. 'Cause
Yes.
It's nebulous and vague and can't be enforced.
Yes, and the Bill of Rights is not the only rights. It simply expects some. In fact, they thought many people thought we don't need a Bill of Rights. This stuff's obvious.
Was it the Anti-Federalists?
I don't remember. It's one of
I
them.
think it was the Anti-Federalists who were like, we're not giving you that power. It's got to be outlined. In fact, I think there was originally 17 in the Bill of Rights, and they decided to combine some, remove some, and boy, did they screw up the second. You know why? Because the original article that they wrote up actually said, even if you are not a part of a militia, your right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. But they were worried that if they included that, people would use it as an argument to avoid conscription. So they said, let's just say you have the right to keep and bear arms.
Let's just give the damn Brady group some to try and hang its stupid hat on.
It doesn't matter though. You know why? Because without
It's still clear.
without culture, it's meaningless.
Oh, of course.
That's my
Completely.
point.
Look, rights have
Right.
to be rights have to be defended and enforced.
But no, Ian, I'm not saying that your rights don't exist. I'm saying that if you don't have a culture that's going to agree with you or recognize your rights, then the Constitution doesn't grant you your rights. It tells the government not to infringe upon these specific rights.
Right, but
if you have a culture that says we'll infringe anyway, be prepared to defend your rights.
But it was the founding fathers that decided which rights are inalienable. It wasn't like those are actually inalienable.
No.
It wasn't like God
they
channeled
didn't.
it for these
No,
dudes.
they didn't, Ian. They said, let's create a list of rights to stop the government from infringing.
Yeah.
They even say that rights that aren't included are just because they didn't include it in the Bill of Rights, it doesn't mean you don't have those rights.
Right, they were like, let's pick the best outline for
The
what
most
it is to live
important
in like
ones.
a human
said the
society,
most
and they
important
agreed
ones.
on it. These are Puritan Christian white men that agreed on a set of rights.
Well,
does it mean that they're the
no.
only rights or that they're the best rights?
No, Ian, you are wrong. They didn't all agree on what rights were. In fact, there was an argument over whether or not they'd have a Bill of Rights. What they said was, we have rights, then which ones do we put in? Out of 17, they get down to 10. And they said, these are the ones that protect the country. And they negotiated and compromised. There were many people who felt there were some rights you should have and some rights you shouldn't have. Some people were slave owners and some people were abolitionists. They clearly did not agree.
So I guess some cultures might have a Bill of Rights that say you have the right to 3 wives.
Yeah, but they're wrong.
Well, who says though? That's
Our
military.
Our Constitution does not say you have a right to anything.
Yes, that's correct. No positive rights.
It does. It says
No, it doesn't.
these rights are yours.
No, it doesn't.
Our
The government can't
No, it
infringe
doesn't.
on them.
Right. And that the government cannot infringe on
our
these
rights.
rights.
Are negative rights. When the rights that the enumerated rights, that is the ones that are specifically set out, because those are not the only ones. They're specifically reserve other rights. The enumerated rights are all negative.
The Bill of Rights, you're saying.
The Bill of Rights, they are all negative in the sense that the government cannot infringe on these. There are no rights that you have to something. You have no right to a house or a job or to my labor.
But in
or
saying
to pronouns.
in saying they have the obligation to not infringe on that right, they're essentially saying you have that right.
Yeah.
So they're giving
acknowledging.
us rights.
No, the rights come from God.
That's what it says. It's written in that it's like God said, and it's like, come on, guys.
I don't think you understand the philosophy of what
God gave it.
Ian, I think it'd be really important that if you're
Well,
going,
where else would rights come from?
Ian,
A gun.
Ian, you need to actually read some theology and some religion to understand what they're saying, because I think the problem here is that you fundamentally don't understand the philosophy behind inalienable rights. You seem to think that some guys read a Bible and just arbitrarily decided something because you don't understand what it means to have intrinsic, inherent value.
Well, I see that there is value to it. I acknowledge the free speech is legit, but it's also subjective to our society and our culture right now.
No, it can't. A right can't be subjective. A right is inherent to every human being. And even the victim of the Taliban who's got an AK-47 to his head has a right to speak freely, even if someone's going to blow his head off because he does it. And when I say the rights come from God, I'm a religious guy. There are people who aren't religious who who are humanists. They'll call themselves humanists and say that as a human being, I have these rights. And at the end, the effect is similar in that they are a given. They are outside debate. You cannot debate the right to do it because the right exists. That's why I reject all these balancing tests. Well, Tim, it's important that you have free speech, but, if your speech is harmful, well, look, speech is the only speech that matters. The only time rights matter is when it's harmful or forbidden or unwanted or unreasonable. Otherwise, you don't need a right. I think no one will care. There
are certain rights that are actually universal. In fact, in all cultures. The right.
Well, there are basic tenets that allow us to survive as a species better, and I think a lot of those are codified in the U.S. Constitution. But for people to rely, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm afraid that people are going to rely and be like, "These are my rights. This paper says so no one can touch me." And dude, you have to fight to if you want those to be real. You need to struggle.
We're on the same sheet of music there, and that's why I believe every American should own guns. That's why I believe every American should be trained to participate in the defense of our community and Constitution. And
there's the serious challenge, though, of what happens when the bus pulls up for the Australians and says, we're going to be taking you and relocating you to the alternative quarantine hub, to the relocatable campsite. We're going to be color coordinating, your outfits and your cabins.
Yeah,
so
unfortunately, they're going to finish their Fosters and get on board.
Then actually, I don't think they have Fosters in Australia.
I think they have Fosters in Australia.
I don't think so.
No, I think it's like the old Milwaukee.
No, I'm pretty sure it's not there. I have friends from Australia, and they're like, we don't have that.
You don't have Fosters?
I'm pretty sure.
With a big can?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not.
Sydney Watson, can you weigh in on this?
She said they don't.
You're from
have
Australia.
I always make that joke, or not like a half joke to my Australian friends. I'd be like, "Oh, so you guys drink Fosters like Budweiser?" And we don't have that. It's American. And I'd be like, "Really?
Really? Okay.
But maybe." Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.